They say that if you want to humble a politician and from his arrogance, the only thing to do is take away his power. If you want a politician to repent over the things which they have done, take away his power. If you want the politician to acknowledge that they were trying to usurp the powers of the public, take away his power. We in the opposition have decided to work together as a collective, and we are asking the people of Zambia to rally with us, because this cause to fight this attempt at usurping your power is a noble cause. We have done it before. We stopped people who are trying to extend their term limitations. We have stopped people who were trying to give themselves extra power. We, the people of Zambia, have come together. So my plea is to all the members of the Tonse Alliance, to all the members of the UKA Alliance, to the Socialist Party, to the members of the Zambia We Want, to all of the political parties that have come together. Let us make sure that we get the people of Zambia to rally and humble Mr. HH and his UPND. And we can only humble them by telling them that the power that you have, the power that you want to give to yourself, is not your power. It is a power that belongs to us as a people.
Watch the entire video, my lovely viewers, from start to finish, to get the whole thing. Without wasting much of your time, let's get right into it.
This is DJ Mutati exclusive.
Hi lovely viewers, it's me again, your one and only Mutati Mpundu. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time on my channel, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button down below. Turn the bell icon to join the notification squad. Don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this video in the comment section below. I'll be super glad to hear from you lovely viewers.
Great. Now, before we go to discussing these matters of the Constitution, please permit me to just divert a little bit, because there is a bigger elephant in the room. Today, we woke up to a statement by a foreign government, the United States of America, that, hello, did you know that your government in Zambia has signed a cyber crimes law? I mean, it's very shocking, and it has sent tags wagging. Now, before I get your reactions, this is a law that has been signed by our president, even though there is no official communication yet. And I am aware that the president himself, while in opposition, he totally, vehemently, strongly opposed to this law. There is a screenshot that I want us to begin the conversation with, as we delve into the cyber crimes law that has been enacted in the dead of the night. The president there, on 26th February 2021, went to his Twitter and said the cyber security and crime bill is not about preventing cyberbullying. It is about clamping freedom of expression and spying on citizens. People who the government despises will be targeted and be arrested. The PF are leading us down a very dark road. If I were to paraphrase this today, I would say the UPND has enacted this law not to prevent cyberbullying, but they will be targeting those whom they despise, like Moravi Lungu, like Mwanamuke, and whoever they despise, and they'll be putting you behind bars only for speaking. So the freedom of expression finally has been locked away. No Zambian is free to speak under the administration of Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, who himself promised never to allow this law to see the light of day. He said he will remove it from the statutes. Lo and behold, it is become law. I need to hear your reactions to this.
Yeah, I'll give my young brother a chance.
It's a very sad thing, because the conversation about the cybersecurity started about a month ago, and the discussion was that we needed to repeal the Cybersecurity and Crimes Act, which was enacted by the Patriotic Front in February. As you see Mr. Ichilema's reactions in 2021 when he's reacting to what the PF has done. Now, you see, when we don't engage in politics on principle, duplicity becomes the occupation of the day. And that is what the screenshot is telling you of individuals that are not truthful to the nation. He condemned the Cybersecurity and Crimes Act that was enacted by the Patriotic Front. And when the discussion started, you will recall, if I am not mistaken, that members of parliament were first given only 10 days, aside from what officially they have about a month to scrutinize a provision of any suggested law so that they can go and debate it, but they were only given about 10 days. After that, there was an extension of a few days, and let alone it passed and now is into law. And the provisions of that act is to keep surveillance on the electronic communication of all individuals in the country, as you have seen in the notification being given by the American embassy to their citizens who are visiting Zambia to be aware of the provisions of this act. First, by breaching people's rights to privacy, and secondly, as we know, is that the current regime has not been merciful to those that have spoken with a different view from that which is held. And that demonstrates the highest standard of duplicity, that people cannot be able to stand by the truth. They say one thing, but they do another thing. And it can be demonstrated here. So you have a law that shows propensity of the current regime to be able, number one, to violate the rights of citizens without any remorse, without any cause. And even when some of permissible, what are called permissible derogation to rights, such as the right to privacy and derogation in international human rights law, is that first, it should be proportionate to the problem that is at hand. Now, if you look at the problem that is at hand, there is no any problems that warranties us now to keep a surveillance on people's communication. What we need to keep a surveillance on is the issues of anger, the cost of living that keeps on skyrocketing every day. That is what people need to keep surveillance on. Because I am saying that they need to keep surveillance on is that every time things go wrong in this country, even the current government themselves that are in the driver's seat, they pretend as if they're in the passenger seat and get shocked with everybody that actually we didn't know, we did not anticipate. So you have a tendency of trying to fix what is not a problem and leaving the problems vividly there. And you heard, even when we had the national debate, there were those of the view that just because we have anger, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't amend the constitution. We need to have direction and prioritize the problems of the country and respond to that which is killing our people. We need to respond to that which is pressing. We need to respond to that which is affecting people on each day. Governments are elected not to come and pretend as if they are solving problems, but they are elected to solve problems, and to solve problems that are real and tangible, to solve the problems that people are complaining about. It's not a prerogative of the current government or any other government that will come after the UPN to choose what they deem as a problem and to exclude that which other people are telling them it's a problem. So you take cumulatively what they have done in the Cybersecurity Act is that they have violated the rights of citizens, that which pertains to privacy and expression. But I can tell you, Pastor Mambo, that I am not very old, but at least I have studied politicians in this country. It will be the UPND, just like the PF today, applying the loudest to some of the laws that they enacted, that will cry. That law one day will come and bite those that are in the close proximity of the UPND. And it will bite even those that thought that law was necessary. It will bite those that even oppose some of us when we said this is a bad law, especially in a democratic state. You find some such type of laws in authoritarian and dictatorship where having a varying opinion is deemed to be a crime. That is what that law aims to do. And as pictured very well on 26 February 2021 by Mr. Ichilema, that this is to target those that are despised by the current government. May I adopt those words, not my words, but the president's word, that even this cyber security law is enacted to target those who speak with a different voice to what the current government believes or holds, or the opinion that they're trying to get out there to the public. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mohabi Lungu, what are your thoughts and sentiments?
Yeah, I think let me start by singing a little song, which I'm not a very good singer, but you might recognize it. He may not recognize it. One of my favorite artists is Jimmy Cliff. And he has a song in which he says, anywhere you go, there is always one to be found. Hypocrite, you better watch out. You're gonna pay the price someday. This is Jimmy Cliff's song, and this is what he's saying. That the problem with hypocrites is that they always cast themselves in the noose. Here is an individual who wanted to make all of us believe that he is a decent man and he's a principled man, and that he was an upright man. And so he made a lot of undertakings which he didn't mean, because he is not an upright man, because he is a hypocrite. And barely 3 years down the line, he does exactly what he said he would not do. In fact, he even does it worse, because the cyber security bill, as far as I understand it, was less by far in terms of its draconian nature than it has been enacted today. So basically we are talking about a hypocrite who is unremorseful, who doesn't even have the decency to apologize to the people of Zambia. I will conclude on this part by saying, again, re-emphasizing what Mr. Lubinda has said. And I have said this point before on this television station. When the Nazis got power, the first thing they started to do was to burn books. They collected all the best books. Even theories of physics were a threat to them, and they burned them. The same thing to do with the Soviet Union. Every time that a dictator wants to stifle freedoms, wants to have absolute power, they begin with any material that expresses the freedom of thought. So singing, as I have sung there, is a freedom of thought which dictators will want to crush. Writing of books is something that they will try and crush. And nowadays, many of the young people are on social media, and that's what they want to crush. This is a prelude to a very dangerous and dark day in our Zambian history. And as you said, it is absolutely unacceptable that we, the citizens of this country, can find out that a bill has been signed from a foreign government. That shows an absolute disrespect of the people who gave you the job. So it is terrible. It's a terrible thing.
Now, I've heard you, refer, to President Ndayishimiye as a dictator, and you're not the only one. I am reading on social media, people are beginning to give that as an attribute to him. What do you think are some of the things that are earning him that infamous, not so exciting title, really? If you want, I mean, I don't think he likes it to be called a dictator. In his disposition, he thinks he's a very decent man. He's a Democrat. He's doing what needs to be done. In fact, when you hear what the government is saying, they are enacting this particular law and strengthening it to curb hate speech and divisive, talk. They are trying to make sure that there is no tribal war or any of that nature. But why would you call a leader who is calling a nation to order in that space a dictator?
Yeah, a dictator is a person who doesn't want to hear any alternative views, and that any view that has been expressed which is contrary to their view is offensive to them. Okay? A dictator is one who loves the adoration of a dull masses. Someone who is intoxicated on whether it is on opium or on beer or whatever, who cannot question what you are doing. That is a dictator. A dictator is a person in power who feels that whatever they have to do must be done with no opposition at all. And that's what this bill actually represents. To be able to cow people into having fear so that they are unable to express their true feelings. And I don't think it's a good title. And I don't think he cares. My own personal view truly is that I don't think that HH cares one single bit, whether he's called a dictator or not. I think he probably even adores it, that he's so brilliant and that he can feed us with whatever he wants. And it is up to the Zambian people to stop him, for him to understand that we will not allow a situation where we go back to before 1991, when we had a state of emergency, when we were fighting a liberation war. The situation that is being created now is infinitely more draconian than what we had in 1991. So that one, the people of Zambia must rise to the occasion and tell this dictator that we do not approve of dictators. The people of Zambia must be able to say to these people that we are going to be able to check him. We are going to be unafraid. And even if he has legislated this, millions of us will tell him in his face and in the face of the UPND that you are smaller than we are as a people.
Mwanamuke, you are a constitutional activist, a law scholar. There is a protocol, there is a standard procedure to assenting to a law and gazetting it and announcing it. We woke up to, as Mr. Lungu said, a foreign nation telling us that there is a new law, there's a new sheriff in town. And if you check the date, it was signed 18th. That's like 10 days ago. That's almost 2 weeks ago. Zambians have been kept in the dark. Mr. Mohabi Lungu says it's disrespectful to the Zambian people. I want you to come in and comment on what is the secrecy about this. What are they trying to achieve? To sneak a law into the dead of the night, to assent and be kept quiet? I mean, keep quiet about it. Were they hoping that you probably say something and say, oh, you didn't know there is a law already, and clamp down on you? What's the secret? What are they really trying to achieve?
First, before I even get to the point of what they're trying to achieve, I think the conversation starts with NGOs. Actually, when this process for making this bill was being undertaken, many NGO, non-governmental organizations expressed disappointment at some of the clauses that were in this new bill that has just been assented into law. And comparison can be made to a few provisions in the previous bill that was enacted by the Patriotic Front and in the current bill. In order to obtain any electronic communication of any individual, you needed an approval from court, and that order from court will then be taken to ZICTA, and ZICTA will then route out the communication, and it will be then produced wherever it is needed. While in this case, it proposes that you set up a different institution from ZICTA that will be under the office of the president, if I am not mistaken. And those are the individuals that will constantly spy on the communication of all the Zambian citizens. Now, there was a conversation that was held at Sun Hotel by Chapter 1 Foundation, where they were saying, of course, the law, this Cyber Security Act, has some good provisions, and but it has some of the very toxic provision, especially for any democracy. And the government did not listen. And the government, because of not listening, we saw a haste in terms of trying to push and have this law become law. Now, what is the motive to enact law in such a manner as if a thief is trying to sneak in the house? There's no any other motive. It's because you don't want to have a conversation. You have an ulterior motive. And it's very unfortunate that in almost every dispensation in our country, we have a government repeating the same thing of enacting law to target a specific class of people, which is very dangerous, because at the end of everything, it is actually the enactors that end up falling victims of this new law that has been enacted. Now, the sneaking in of a law, it should not even be the case in any democratic society. These processes must be open and people must be engaged at large. It is even that same reason why some of us today, we hold the view that even the proposed constitutional amendment must be rejected because of the propensity that is being shown that laws are being enacted for certain motives that it's going to be achieved. Now, as to the motives, I am not aware, but all I know is that the process in itself that brought to fruition of the law that we are being told, the American embassy warning its citizen, we know that there is a ulterior motive, because if you are making a law for a particular people and you are saying we are trying to curb hate speech, we are trying to curb tribal talk, we are trying to curb seditious practices. Now, in any democratic dispensation, it's one thing to hold people accountable to hate speech, but you also must be very careful that you do not do that in such a manner as to silence those that oppose you, or secondly, you do not infringe on the rights of the citizen. And to achieve that balance, you need to engage in a conversation with the people that have given you the mandate to read them and say, to what extent are we then going to treat what should be considered as hate speech? Because what we know currently as hate speech in Zambia to any ordinary street person is what a politician says about a particular thing. Even the laws of hate speech are being applied in a very uneven manner. You have one person today being arrested because he has talked about some people in a certain part of the country. You have another person who says these individuals are suffering from the poverty of the mind, going scot-free. There's nothing that happens to them. So these are conversations that you need to have and say, ladies and gentlemen, let's come around the table. This is what we want to achieve, because we have felt that there is a need, which is actually a legitimate reason that even in a democratic society, we must keep some over-ambitious individuals that feel that they can say anything or anyhow, because we don't want what have happened in other countries from just speech to happen in this country. But at the same time, we don't want illegitimate reasons being used as a vehicle to target certain individuals in the society, because that in itself shrinks the democratic space. And this is what you have been getting even from the human rights reports that have been coming, that the space is shrinking, not necessarily because people are being treated with impunity and the breach of law without rule of law, but there's certain legislation, statutes that are being enacted in such a manner has to show that we want that individual behind bars. And that is the whole idea for sneaking in the law. Because I have told you, even in Parliament, there was a haste at some point that we need to debate within this particular number of days against what is provided for by the standing order for members of Parliament. Let alone the process was halted. Before we know it, it went back to Parliament. Now we know that has become law. In any democratic dispensation, laws are not made as if you are being inducted into a secret service. Laws are made in a process that is accountable and transparent. You are making the laws for the rest of us, and it is therefore only imperative that you get us through the process.
Right. What do you think is informing the UPND to assume such a truant position clearly against the wishes of the Zambian people that we hear this government does not want to listen to? Because if they were listening, they would have taken the church voice into consideration, into account. They would have taken the voice of the laws into account, the They would have taken the voice of the church, the three mother bodies into account. They would have taken the voice of the civil society. So clearly they've taken a very truant position on this matter. And I'm wondering, from where I am standing, and I would like you to speak to that. What, in your estimation, is really informing this kind of position that the UPND government has taken?
Before I even get to your question, I think I'm a very sad young man. If I must tell you and confess here, is that I'm a very sad young man, because I think for me is that I have not seen anything new that the UPND are doing. At least I was there in the government of Mr. Rupia Bwezanbanda, and at the time Mr. Bwezanbanda would disregard everything that people said. Then the Patriotic Front came. They reached an apex where it was themselves alone and themselves everything. They could not listen. It has reached yet again another time when the UPND have assumed that same very position that they condemned. In fact, what you would then notice is that what has been at least the most common achievement for all politicians is to assume the monopoly of knowledge, and that then informs their arrogance, that they then stop listening to anybody. The PF did it. We told them when butane was introduced. If you recall, is that even in 2010 under Mr. Bwezanbanda, there was a constitutional amendment that even people registered a displeasure. It didn't listen, and it also failed. And the UPND are also trading on the same waters today. What is informing them to assume this position is exactly what informed the PF. Arrogance and power has tasted so nice that they disregard the people that gave them that power. I can tell you, it was the youths that voted in all major changes of governments. And it will be the youths that who voted even for the UPND government in 2021. The major turnout that saw the removal of the Patriotic Front and their cadreism, lawlessness, it was because of the youths. If the UPND not handling this nation very well, it will again be those same very youths that voted for them who will be there to vote for them, to vote them out. Now, let me speak to this constitutional amendment. If you listen to them, they provide a roadmap that commences on about 26 March and ends exactly somewhere before
24th July, I think.
24th July. So the process, if you count the months from that time to 24th July, that gives you a period of about 4 months. It's in 4 months that they want to make a constitution. I could actually have listened to the PF if they brought about a constitutional amendment. But to the UPND, I cannot even listen because they cannot make a case. You will recall that immediately they were elected into power, accusation and allegation started emanating from the Patriotic Front that there was an intention to amend the constitution. They refuted those allegations. And I recall a letter that was issued by one individual from State House, Mr. Hamasaka, who then assured the nation that Mr. Ichlema would not embark on such a cause as he took oath to protect the constitution of Zambia. Let alone, fast forward, we are in 2025, 16 months exactly from an election. We see that there is this constitution. The debate, in fact, starts without no roadmap, no any proposed amendment. Unlike any other constitutional making process that has happened starting from 1991, 1996, and 2001, 2010, 2019, all that, it's unlike this one. It assumes the style that is new, but seemingly very similar to butane. Now, the process in itself, it's flawed how it comes into existence. The proposed amendments are a work single-handedly for the UPND government. The process are a work of 4 months of the UPND government. Whoever they agreed with, nobody knows, but themselves and God alone. Now, they come to the issue. Let me zoom in details on this issue of process. The process in any constitutional making, at least whatever form it takes, it must be influenced by 2 things: transparency and accountability. Why? Because if you are making a document for the rest of us, and I keep repeating this, why should it be necessary to get us involved into the process? Right. Why should it be that you want to make a constitution as if you are reading a rules of regulation in a secret society where you are trying to induct somebody to the exclusion of other people knowing what is happening? What is special about this constitutional amendment that even after it comes on the eve of us getting into an election year, you still want to rush the process within a process or within a period of 4 months? It's surprising that even in that process of 4 months, all you do is propose. There's no room, because it's a document of the people. If the people themselves deem it necessary, they must inform you on what they want to be amended. And it has been clear from all the Zambian people that what has been lacking in our constitution is the economic, social, and cultural rights, which failed in 2016. And what is the reason why they failed? First, because of wrong timing, but second, because the UPND had campaigned against the referendum. They went in every village, they went in every town, they went in every area, and they told the people that the referendum was a bad thing. If you voted for a referendum, it meant that you're perpetuating Mr. Lungu's stay into power. And exactly, it failed. They are coming exactly, not even with a referendum that the people have been looking forward to, but now they are coming with their proposed 13 amendments that have that in themselves are a mere replication of what was contained in butane. No ingenuity, no change. They pick them from butane and they say, this is what we are proposing to amend to the constitution.
Right.
And they're saying we need to do so within a period of 4 months. The process in itself is not consultative. The process in itself has not engaged the people. And the reason and the justification, as you heard from the Honorable Cornelius Mwetwa, is that we want a cost-effective. You want a cost-effective for what? There's been money that has been carelessly spent. We have seen the Financial Intelligence Center report indicating huge amounts of money that have gone out of this nation without any properly being appropriated to anything that is necessary or for the benefit of the Zambian people. But you are saying when it comes to the most sacrosanct, supreme document that affects the rest of us, that's supposed to regulate both the governor and the governed, you are saying we want a cost-effective. Is it your money? That money belongs to the Zambian people. You are only entrusted as a custodian, as an individual for a particular period of time to drive this country from one place to the other. When did you assume the position to know what is cost effective and not cost effective for the people, when the people themselves have chosen that if when it comes to the constitution, this must be done in a transparent and accountable manner? And this is what is surprising. This is what is surprising, that at every interval you see politicians rising in arrogance because they have numbers in parliament to do outright things that are against to that which people expected them to do. We elected the UPND because we refused the authoritarian rule of the Patriotic Front. But unfortunately, what we did not know is that we were jumping from the saucepan into the fire actually. The common ground is to do the right thing. And what is the right thing is to engage in an accountable and transparent process, pertaining the process and the content. And speaking from the constitutionalist point of view is that in any constitutional making or amendment process, which the two must not be confused for the other, is that both the process and the content rank pari passu or equivalent in terms of importance. So you can't say we might not have a good process, but we have the good content. Such arguments themselves do not hold water or are not persuasive when it comes to constitution making process. But let me try to zoom in on this horse that is being used to be peddled as a justification for these constitutional amendments. There is delimitation, and that delimitation is attached to the component of Constituency Development Fund. Now, delimitation, it's a process of dividing constituencies. You have certain areas for a member of parliament and for a councillor. In terms of districts, you have their council chairperson and mayors. But when it comes of particular importance to this conversation, it's constituencies. Article 68 of the 1991 Constitution tells us that we only have 156 constituencies. And when you come to the Constitution Amendment Act number 2 of 2016, in Article 56, particularly Clause 4, we are told that ECZ is bestowed with the power to recommendation to delimit these constituencies. We are told in Article 58 the considerations that should be taken. We are also told there that ECZ should carry this process within a period of less than 10 years. Now, let me then apply this home. In 2019, that recommendation is made by the ECZ. Then, as Chief Executive Officer Patrick Shindano was still at ECZ, that it was necessary to make an additional of 90 constituencies to already existing 156. And in a speech delivered on the floor of House, if I'm not mistaken, on 2nd February 2020, the then Minister of Justice, Mr. Given Rubinda, makes that speech. In that parliament, at that particular time, UPND constituted in terms of opposition. They had the numbers. It was rejected and it failed. In fact, even the famous Bill 10 had that clause which suggested delimitation. And responding to the delimitation clause in Bill 10, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema makes that video. I will not repeat his word. I am not a politician, so I'll leave that to Mr. Mhavi. But I'll give you the law. He makes that. At that particular time, if you listen to his argument, is that you want to engage in dishonest. But what they are doing in terms of delimitation, it's part of an electoral process. Because delimitation does not only have the effect of reflecting the population shifts and growth and giving elected representative an opportunity to be able to advocate for the needs of their people, but it's also susceptible to what is known as gerrymandering, a dishonest way of making boundaries in order to increase political power. Now, you know that by constituencies give parliamentary power in terms of voting. So that in itself distributes parliamentary power. Now, this delimitation at the process where we are, as at now, there's been no consensus with the politicians to agree to say these are the boundaries that we need to be able to have. And why are the politicians necessary? Before we even get to the citizen, the politicians are necessary because they are players, just like the UPND are in these constituencies. So they need to agree that this will be the line that separates this one word and creates this another word, so that there is consensus. By failing to achieve that consensus, you are then delaying or messing the integrity part of the electoral process, and in a way at least giving yourself a leverage against others. Now, let's again get this delimitation and look at it in the context in which it is proposed to be carried out. As at now, there has been no communication that has been made, whether it will be based on the 2019 recommendation by ECZ. There's been no communication. But if you look at that time frame, what you are told is that there will be a technical committee that will be able to carry out this study and be able to make the recommendation. First, that technical committee does not have any statutory power because the power is given to ECZ by the Constitution. So it will be doing an illegal exercise. That is number one. But second to it is that if it is you are doing it for the purposes of helping people, would it not be necessary that you consult the people that you're trying to help? But there is also another peddle of CDF that is being peddled, that some of these constitutions are too big and they can't receive the same CDF that smaller constituencies are receiving. That in itself, as it may be true, you must know one thing, that CDF in itself is not a constitution. There is no provision that ties CDF that this particular amount of money will be given to all constituencies in an equal manner at equal intervals. There is no such provision.
As a matter of fact,
yes,
you have cited a provision in the constitution,
yes,
that provides the parameters,
yes,
within which ECZ must operate to come up with
yes,
limitations.
yes.
Is CDF one of the parameters?
CDF, it's not a parameter, it's a consideration. It's only a consideration when they're undertaking a process of delimitation. They're undertaking it. Now, you can't then say, we want to delimitate on the basis that we want to CDF to reach the people. No, it's not constitutional in itself. In fact, one of the things that have been recommended by LAS is that if the government feels that these constituencies are too big, why don't they create more districts like the Patriotic Front did in 2011, so that development reaches the people? Now, the considerations that have to be taken themselves are not in themselves casting stone. This is what should be mentioned. So to use the vehicle of CDF to propel this delimitation, especially when the risks of messing the electoral process integrity are more higher than the benefit of CDF, it's not a very wise thing to do. And in fact, if this delimitation is more important, looking at the circumstances, it can benefit from a wider consultative process that can be carried, so that at least we don't do things in the haste. We really actually delimit where it matters the most. But we also have a risk now of delimiting in people's strongholds. You know that there is a commission whose report shows that certain regions in this country vote in certain patterns. So that in itself can be used to delimit in those strongholds, so that people can give themselves leverage over other people and create a parliament that is a rubber stamp for their arbitrary actions. I remember one day listening to one of the people that I look up to, Mr. John Peter Sangwa, and he said, it must have been on a broadcast with Ambassador Emmanuel Mwamba. He said that Zambians may not be very good at electing good leaders, but at least one thing that he had faith in them is that they are good at voting out bad ones. Only time will tell, but that outermost sanction is awaiting all those that have registered arrogance to the Zambian people. But let me zoom in again on the proposed constitutional amendment, and this particular time I want to speak to the constituency that is being...
And that will be your summary.
Yes, that will be my summary. Yes. It's being peddled that on this basis we need to amend the constitution, and the title of that proposed amendment is the proportional representation, incorporating women and people living with disability and the youths into government. The question that I had put even at the debate is that, let's take a quick study. How many youths are in the cabinet of Mr. Hichilema? There is none. How many women are in the cabinet of Mr. Hichilema? There are only 4 women. Is there any law as at now that is stopping Mr. Hichilema or any other appointing authority in the UPND from including women, youths, and people living with disability? No. They are saying we need to amend the constitution because Article 45 and Article 256 have not really been utilized. In fact, the suggestion is that the UPND should have at least given effect to the provision of Article 60 to enact the political bill act, which will then become law and obligate these parties to adopt the women and people living with disability, but that they have failed to do so. Second to it is that Article 256 is quite instructive, guiding the appointing authority that where possible, youths and women should be appointed. Recently, we had Honorable Gary Nkombo being fired. Who was he replaced with? Was it a woman? Was it a youth? Or a person living with disability? No. But another individual who does not fall into that category. So, here we have individuals that seem to be preaching a good message. But in practice, there are individuals that seem to live opposite that which they say. You don't need any empowerment to achieve that which the law does not stop you from doing. There were many youths in this country that has expressed intention to stand even on the UPND candidate. They were not adopted. So that in itself to be used as a vehicle that we need to amend the constitution, it is something that is not wise at all, and at least must be taken by all well-meaning Zambia as something that is ill-founded, because currently at the moment there's nothing that stops the UPND. And I do not agree that delimitation, CDF and proportional representation. But even on that proportional representation, listen to the speech that was delivered by the Honorable Minister of Justice and what the chief spokesperson for government are saying. It's all different. One is saying proportional representation, which we all know to mean something. The other one is talking about affirmative action. Two people coming from the same party but reading different scripts on different forums. Are these people that we would want to entrust with the process of making the constitution? If themselves, among their group, they are not even sure of what they want at the end of the day? The speech in parliament, it's all different. On forums, it's affirmative action. No. For me, what I will tell you, Zambians, we continue on this path. I will quote the words of a Nigerian politician when he was going to prison by the name of Ololo. He said, he didn't know where the nation was going, but he was mostly certain that we are venturing into the journey of unknown. And that is what exactly we are doing. For the UPND, as I'm concluding, is that let's learn from history. We have been here before. The right thing to do is to get everybody in a room and say, what is the way forward? We agree that our constitution is not the best, but we also would say that the constitution that we have, especially Constitution Amendment number 2 of 2016, is the best in terms of all the constitution that we have had. There are also proposed amendments relating to increasing the president's power in appointing nominated member of parliament. Already, the intention of the constitution is being missed with already 8 that are being provided, which was supposed to cater for the minority groups, but that has failed. In any progressive democracy, they reduce the power of the president. In this amendment, you want to increase the power of the president. Is that the right thing? Is that progressive? Is that adding to our country? The right thing to do is to focus on the problems that are affecting the Zambian people. The problems of anger, the problems of the cost of living, the problems of the cost of commodities, the problems of lawlessness, the problems of lack of rule of law in terms of the application of the law, the problems of lack of consensus, where you don't want people to tell you anything. Those are some of the things should be done. Police brutality, problems that relates to some of things that are happening, that are self-created in this country that look like. Those are some of the things that need to be attended to. The problems of corruption, that is being ignored, but we are seeing people being fought. Those are the problems we need to channel our energy, not the constitution. We don't amend constitution as if you are trying to induct an individual in a secret service, and these will be my words.
Yeah.
History, Mr. Mwabirungu, as we conclude.
Yeah. History, they say, they no longer say that history repeats itself. They say that history rhymes. It rhymes. And I think that it is on the way to have that beautiful rhyme. They say that if you want to humble a politician and from his arrogance, the only thing to do is take away his power. If you want a politician to repent over the things which they have done, take away his power. If you want the politician to acknowledge that they were trying to usurp the powers of the public, take away his power. We in the opposition have decided to work together as a collective, and we are asking the people of Zambia to rally with us, because this cause to fight this attempt at usurping your power is a noble cause. We have done it before. We stopped people who are trying to extend their term limitations. We have stopped people who were trying to give themselves extra power. We, the people of Zambia, have come together. So my plea is to all the members of the Tonse Alliance, to all the members of the UKA Alliance, to the Socialist Party, to the members of the Zambia We Want, to all of the political parties that have come together. Let us make sure that we get the people of Zambia to rally and humble Mr. HH and his UPND. And we can only humble them by telling them that the power that you have, the power that you want to give to yourself, is not your power. It is a power that belongs to us as a people.
This is DJ Mutati exclusive.
Alright, that's all for you today, lovely viewers. If you did enjoy the video, please don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about the video you just watched in the comment section below. I'll be super glad to hear from you, lovely viewers. Once again, I go by the name of Mutati Mpundu. I love you, peace, I gotta go.